turut serta menjadi dosen. Dengan demikian, mahasiswa dapat lebih memahami praktek di dunia kerja. Dalam konteks rekognisi keilmuan di bidang akuntansi, mahasiswa program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS dibekali sertifikasi kompetensi dari lembaga eksternal yang kredibel, antara lain sertifikasi teknisi akuntansi sebagai bukti kompetensi bidang akuntansi, dan sertifikat ERP SAP Fundamental dan Financial Accounting sebagai bukti penguasaan teknologi informasi. Lulusan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah terbukti dapat bersaing di dunia kerja tingkat nasional dan internasional. Dari hasil pelacakan tracer study yang berhasil diperoleh, menunjukkan bahwa waktu tunggu lulusan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS adalah sekitar 2,85 bulan. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah mengadakan kerjasama dari berbagai pihak baik dari institusi swasta, pemerintah, maupun organisasi lainnya. Kerjasama ini dilaksanakan untuk mendukung pelaksanaan kegiatan pengajaran, penelitian, dan pengabdian masyarakat. Selain itu, kerjasama dan kemitraan juga dapat dilakukan berdasarkan kerjasama dan kemitraan yang dijalin oleh pihak fakultas maupun universitas. Beberapa MOU yang dapat digunakan untuk pengembangan magang atau sertifikasi, yaitu sertifikasi IATA, Darussalam Tech Center, Aftech dan Afpi Financial Technology. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS senantiasa melakukan pengembangan dalam rangka mewujudkan visi UNS menuju World Class University dengan melakukan berbagai kolaborasi internasional, terutama dalam bidang riset dan publikasi, serta meningkatkan global appearance. Hal ini dibuktikan dengan berbagai kegiatan yang melibatkan kolaborasi internasional, seperti visiting professor, international conference, student inbound, scholar inbound dan outbound, dan joint research. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga melakukan kerjasama double degree dengan Curtin University Australia. Mahasiswa yang akan ikut serta dalam program double degree ini akan menempuh kuliah 2,5 tahun di UNS dan 1,5 tahun di Curtin University. Untuk menginisiasi program double degree tersebut, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS membuka kelas rinisan internasional yang berbahasa Inggris. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga telah menjadi full member Lembaga Akreditasi Internasional IFMD IPAS pada bulan Desember 2017. Selain IFMD IPAS, bersama program studi lain di FEB juga telah menjadi member AACSB pada tahun 2010. Sebagai upaya mewujudkan pembelajaran yang representatif, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS menyediakan ruang-ruang pendukung seperti ruang kelas, ruang diskusi, ruang telekonferensi, lab komputer, aula, dan akses internet di seluruh area kampus untuk mengakses jurnal akademik secara online dan database penelitian internasional. Dalam rangka mengimplementasikan kebijakan pemerintah tentang program Kampus Merdeka Merdeka Belajar, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS memfasilitasi mahasiswa dalam 8 program Kampus Merdeka Merdeka Belajar. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga ikut serta dalam program pertukaran mahasiswa tanah air Nusantara, sistem alih kredit dengan teknologi informasi yang diselenggarakan oleh Dijen Dikti melalui Direktorat Pembelajaran dan Kemahasiswaan dengan membuka kelas akuntansi logistik. Akuntansi logistik ini juga merupakan salah satu upaya program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS untuk mewujudkan link and match antara perguruan tinggi dan industri dengan melibatkan praktisi sebagai dosen pengajar di mata kuliah tersebut. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah melakukan inisiasi kerjasama dengan universitas lain untuk memperluas jaringan guna mendukung program MBKM.
Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret, has established its vision to be a leading school of economics and business at the national level and recognized at the international level. FEB-UNS currently has 7 degree programs consisting of 3 bachelor undergraduate programs, 3 master programs, and 1 doctoral program. All programs have been accredited A, Excellent, by the National Accreditation Board.
Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret has established its vision to be a leading school of economic and business in Indonesia and internationally recognized by delivering high-quality teaching, excellent research, and community empowerment.
FEB-UNS is a member of the AACSB, Association to Advance Collegiate School of Business. The Master of Management program of FEB-UNS has been accredited by ABES 21, the Alliance on Business Education and Scholarship for Tomorrow, since 2016, while the undergraduate program in Management and the undergraduate program in Development Economics have been certified by the ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance since 2018 and 2019, respectively. Research outputs of FEB-UNS have been among the top 5 in Indonesia. A number of articles written by academic staff have been published in prestigious top-tier journals. Moreover, FEB-UNS has been appointed and granted by several governmental institutions such as Bank Indonesia, Indonesia Financial Services Authority, OJK, and Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, as well as international organizations such as World Bank and USAID to perform research collaborations.
The Faculty of Economic and Business is supported by qualified academic staff with more than 45% hold a doctoral degree. The curriculum is assigned with demand of job market. FEB also participates in Campus Merdeka.
FEB-UNS also plays a role in community development through several activities, including community assistance, training and consultancy for micro and small enterprises, rural development, and many others. Students' participation in scientific, art, and sport competitions, both at the national and international level, is also strongly encouraged. Students also have opportunities to intern in corporations, governmental institutions, or non-governmental organizations. There are also opportunities for students to participate in international mobility programs. To accelerate the quality of education and research, FEB-UNS has developed mutual partnership with a number of reputable overseas universities and institutions. Dynamic circumstances, FEB-UNS is also kindly offering some programs for the Independent Learning Initiative, Campus Merdeka, such as student exchange, both domestic and international, research, internship, entrepreneurship, humanity project, and rural development.
We concerned about university good governance to support division to be an international recognized school on business and economics. This campus is also equipped with complete supporting facilities for students and staff.
The physical, social, and psychological environment of FEB-UNS is well built with adequate infrastructure and based on environmentally friendly principles. Wireless internet connection is available throughout the entire campus, and students and staff can access it. The faculty also provides several laboratories, including a computer lab, mini bank lab, export-import lab, Sharia banking lab, Grameen Bank lab, and investment gallery to support students' learning and research. During the COVID-19 pandemic, FEBUNS has kept the education delivered to students at a high level by transforming to a systematic and standardized online teaching and learning system.
Our alumni has occupied top management position at the national level in the governmental institution, state-owned enterprises, and private firms. Moreover, students are also provided with many opportunities for development, including student organizations, student competition, internship, international mobility, and many others.
FEBUNS graduates have been recognized at the national level, and its alumni have occupied top positions in corporate and governmental agencies. Among them are Wimbo Santoso, who is currently the chairman of the Indonesia Financial Services Authority, OJK. Doni P. Juwono is the deputy governor of Bank Indonesia, the central bank of Indonesia. Didik Hartantyo is the president director of PT KAI, the Indonesian Railways Company. Haryanto is the owner of Dimension Footwear Group, which owns 2 reputable footwear brands in Indonesia with more than 30,000 employees.
Program studi S1 Akuntansi adalah salah satu unit pengelola program studi di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas 11 Maret. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS didirikan pada tahun 1984, tepatnya pada tanggal 28 Juni 1984, sesuai dengan SK Pendirian nomor 39/Kop/1984. Salah satu pendiri program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS yaitu Bapak Dr. Andes Bakhtiar Effendi AK. Dengan gelar akademik SAK, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS hingga saat ini telah terakreditasi A oleh Badan Akreditasi Nasional Pendidikan Tinggi. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS pada awal pendiriannya diketuai oleh Dr. Andes Sri Suharso. Setelah masa kepemimpinan Bapak Sri Suharso berakhir, tongkat kepemimpinan diamanahkan kepada Bapak Dr. Andes Yakob Suparno MSI AK yang sebelumnya menjabat sebagai Sekretaris Program Studi. Selanjutnya, tampuk pimpinan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS diamanahkan kepada Sri Kandi Program Studi S1 Akuntansi, yaitu Ibu Dr. Randa Yasmin Umar Asegaf MMAK. Selanjutnya, Bapak Dr. Eko Arif Sudaryono MSI AK. Beliau memimpin program studi S1 Akuntansi selama 2 periode. Selanjutnya, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS dipimpin oleh Bapak Dr. Jaka Winarna MSI AK, kemudian dilanjutkan oleh Bapak Dr. Andes Santoso Tri Hananto MACC AK selama 2 periode kepemimpinan. Pada masa kepemimpinannya, Bapak Santoso telah berhasil mempertahankan peringkat akreditasi A BAN PT dengan nilai yang terus meningkat. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS dipimpin oleh Bapak Agung Nurprabohudono PhD.AK, sosok muda berprestasi yang berkomitmen untuk mengantarkan program studi S1 Akuntansi menjadi program studi yang bereputasi internasional. Mahasiswa program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS akan mendapatkan pengalaman belajar dari sivitas akademika profesional lulusan universitas dalam dan luar negeri. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEBUNS memiliki 6 guru besar dengan berbagai konsentrasi pada bidang akuntansi dan 56% dosen bergelar doktor. Dalam rangka pengembangan kualitas pembelajaran dan keilmuan, Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS melibatkan para praktisi dari berbagai instansi terkemuka di Indonesia untuk turut serta menjadi dosen. Dengan demikian, mahasiswa dapat lebih memahami praktek di dunia kerja. Dalam konteks rekognisi keilmuan di bidang akuntansi, mahasiswa program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS dibekali sertifikasi kompetensi dari lembaga eksternal yang kredibel, antara lain sertifikasi teknisi akuntansi sebagai bukti kompetensi bidang akuntansi, dan sertifikat ERP SAP Fundamental dan Financial Accounting sebagai bukti penguasaan teknologi informasi. Lulusan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah terbukti dapat bersaing di dunia kerja tingkat nasional dan internasional. Dari hasil pelacakan tracer study yang berhasil diperoleh, menunjukkan bahwa waktu tunggu lulusan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS adalah sekitar 2,85 bulan. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah mengadakan kerjasama dari berbagai pihak baik dari institusi swasta, pemerintah, maupun organisasi lainnya. Kerjasama ini dilaksanakan untuk mendukung pelaksanaan kegiatan pengajaran, penelitian, dan pengabdian masyarakat. Selain itu, kerjasama dan kemitraan juga dapat dilakukan berdasarkan kerjasama dan kemitraan yang dijalin oleh pihak fakultas maupun universitas. Beberapa MOU yang dapat digunakan untuk pengembangan magang atau sertifikasi, yaitu sertifikasi IATA, Darussalam Tech Center, Aftech dan Afpi Financial Technology. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS senantiasa melakukan pengembangan dalam rangka mewujudkan visi UNS menuju World Class University dengan melakukan berbagai kolaborasi internasional, terutama dalam bidang riset dan publikasi, serta meningkatkan global appearance. Hal ini dibuktikan dengan berbagai kegiatan yang melibatkan kolaborasi internasional, seperti visiting professor, international conference, student inbound, scholar inbound dan outbound, dan joint research. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga melakukan kerjasama double degree dengan Curtin University Australia. Mahasiswa yang akan ikut serta dalam program double degree ini akan menempuh kuliah 2,5 tahun di UNS dan 1,5 tahun di Curtin University. Untuk menginisiasi program double degree tersebut, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS membuka kelas rinisan internasional yang berbahasa Inggris. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga telah menjadi full member Lembaga Akreditasi Internasional IFMD IPAS pada bulan Desember 2017. Selain IFMD IPAS, bersama program studi lain di FEB juga telah menjadi member AACSB pada tahun 2010. Sebagai upaya mewujudkan pembelajaran yang representatif, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS menyediakan ruang-ruang pendukung seperti ruang kelas, ruang diskusi, ruang telekonferensi, lab komputer, aula, dan akses internet di seluruh area kampus untuk mengakses jurnal akademik secara online dan database penelitian internasional. Dalam rangka mengimplementasikan kebijakan pemerintah tentang program Kampus Merdeka Merdeka Belajar, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS memfasilitasi mahasiswa dalam 8 program Kampus Merdeka Merdeka Belajar. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS juga ikut serta dalam program pertukaran mahasiswa tanah air Nusantara, sistem alih kredit dengan teknologi informasi yang diselenggarakan oleh Dijendikti melalui Direktorat Pembelajaran dan Kemahasiswaan dengan membuka kelas akuntansi logistik. Akuntansi logistik ini juga merupakan salah satu upaya program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS untuk mewujudkan link and match antara perguruan tinggi dan industri dengan melibatkan praktisi sebagai dosen pengajar di mata kuliah tersebut. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS telah melakukan inisiasi kerjasama dengan universitas lain, dunia industri, dan desa untuk memperluas jaringan guna mendukung program MBKM.
Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret, has established its vision to be a leading school of economics and business at the national level and recognized at the international level. FEB UNS currently has 7 degree programs consisting of 3 bachelor undergraduate programs, 3 master programs, and 1 doctoral program. All programs have been accredited A, Excellent, by the National Accreditation Board.
Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas 11 Maret has established its vision to be a leading school of economic and business in Indonesia and internationally recognized by delivering high-quality teaching, excellent research, and community empowerment.
FEB UNS is a member of the AACSB, Association to Advance Collegiate School of Business. The Master of Management program of FEB UNS has been accredited by ABES 21, the Alliance on Business Education and Scholarship for Tomorrow, since 2016, while the undergraduate program in Management and the undergraduate program in Development Economics have been certified by the ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance since 2018 and 2019, respectively. Research outputs of FEB UNS have been among the top 5 in Indonesia. A number of articles written by academic staff have been published in prestigious top-tier journals. Moreover, FEB UNS has been appointed and granted by several governmental institutions such as Bank Indonesia, Indonesia Financial Services Authority, OJK, and Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation, as well as international organizations such as World Bank and USAID to perform research collaborations.
The Faculty of Economic and Business is supported by qualified academic staff with more than 45% hold a doctoral degree. The curriculum is assigned with demand of job market. FEB also participate in Campus Merdeka.
FEB UNS also plays a role in community development through several activities, including community assistance, training and consultancy for micro and small enterprises, rural development, and many others. Students' participation in scientific, art, and sport competitions, both at the national and international level, is also strongly encouraged. Students also have opportunities to intern in corporations, governmental institutions, or non-governmental organizations. There are also opportunities for students to participate in international mobility programs. To accelerate the quality of education and research, FEB UNS has developed mutual partnership with a number of reputable overseas universities and institutions. Dynamic circumstances, FEB UNS is also kindly offering some programs for the Independent Learning Initiative, Campus Merdeka, such as student exchange, both domestic and international, research, internship, entrepreneurship, humanity project, and rural development.
We concerned about university good governance to support division to be an international recognized school on business and economics. This campus is also equipped with complete supporting facilities for students and staff.
The physical, social, and psychological environment of FEBUNS is well built with adequate infrastructure and based on environmentally friendly principles. Wireless internet connection is available throughout the entire campus, and students and staff can access it. The faculty also provides several laboratories, including a computer lab, mini bank lab, export-import lab, Sharia banking lab, Grameen Bank lab, and investment gallery to support students' learning and research. During the COVID-19 pandemic, FEBUNS has kept the education delivered to students at a high level by transforming to a systematic and standardized online teaching and learning system.
Has occupied top management position at the national level in the governmental institution, state-owned enterprises, and private firms. Moreover, students are also provided with many opportunities for development, including student organizations, student competition, internship, international mobility, and many others.
FEBUNS graduates have been recognized at the national level, and its alumni have occupied top positions in corporate and governmental agencies. Among them are Wimbo Santoso, who is currently the chairman of the Indonesia Financial Services Authority, OJK. Doni P. Juwono is the deputy governor of Bank Indonesia, the central bank of Indonesia. Didik Hartantyo is the president director of PT KAI, the Indonesian Railways Company. Haryanto is the owner of Dimension Footwear Group, which owns 2 reputable footwear brands in Indonesia with more than 30,000 employees.
Program studi S1 Akuntansi adalah salah satu unit pengelola program studi di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas 11 Maret. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS didirikan pada tahun 1984, tepatnya pada tanggal 28 Juni 1984, sesuai dengan SK Pendirian nomor 39/Kop/1984. Salah satu pendiri program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS yaitu Bapak Dr. Andes Bakhtiar Effendi AK. Dengan gelar akademik SAK, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS hingga saat ini telah terakreditasi A oleh Badan Akreditasi Nasional Pendidikan Tinggi. Program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS pada awal pendiriannya diketuai oleh Dr. Andes Sri Suharso. Setelah masa kepemimpinan Bapak Sri Suharso berakhir, tongkat kepemimpinan diamanahkan kepada Bapak Dr. Andes Yakob Suparno MSI AK yang sebelumnya menjabat sebagai sekretaris program studi. Selanjutnya, tampuk pimpinan program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS diamanahkan kepada Sri Kandi program studi S1 Akuntansi, yaitu Ibu Dr. Randa Yasmin Umar Asegaf MMAK. Selanjutnya, Bapak Dr. Eko Arif Sudaryono MSI AK. Beliau memimpin program studi S1 Akuntansi selama 2 periode. Selanjutnya, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS dipimpin oleh Bapak Dr. Jaka Winarna MSI AK, kemudian dilanjutkan oleh Bapak Dr. Andes Santoso Trihananto MACC AK selama 2 periode kepemimpinan. Pada masa kepemimpinannya, Bapak Santoso telah berhasil mempertahankan peringkat akreditasi A BAN PT dengan nilai yang terus meningkat. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS dipimpin oleh Bapak Agung Nurprobohudono PhD/AK, sosok muda berprestasi yang berkomitmen untuk mengantarkan program studi S1 Akuntansi menjadi menjadi program studi yang bereputasi internasional. Mahasiswa program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS akan mendapatkan pengalaman belajar dari sivitas akademika profesional lulusan universitas dalam dan luar negeri. Saat ini, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS memiliki 6 guru besar dengan berbagai konsentrasi pada bidang akuntansi dan 56% dosen bergelar doktor. Dalam rangka pengembangan kualitas pembelajaran dan keilmuan, program studi S1 Akuntansi FEB UNS melibatkan para praktisi dari berbagai instansi terkemuka di Indonesia untuk turut serta menjadi
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Greeting to all of us. The Honorable Dean Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas 11 Maret, Surakarta, Profesor Dr. Andes Joko Suharjanto, M.Com Hans, PhD AK, The Honorable Deputy Dean Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas 11 Maret, Surakarta, Profesor Dr. Izan Mahfuha, SEMSI, the Honorable Speakers of this webinar, Dr. Efizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab, the Honorable Moderator of this webinar, Mr. Aditya Pandu Wicaksana, SEMAK, and also the audience and the webinar participant. Firstly, let's say thanks to God who has been giving us His blessing and mercy so that we can gather in this meeting without something will happen. Ladies and gentlemen, here I'm Sandy Wijayanti as the Master of Ceremony. We will get this webinar. A series of international class opening activities, political connection, and accounting research. But before starting our agenda, let me explain the agenda schedule of this webinar. The first is opening, the second is opening stage, the third is explanation from our speaker, the next is the question and answer session or discussion session, and the last is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start this webinar, let us start this by praying first. So, the event that we will hold on this day will run well without any obstacle at all. Pray based on individual beliefs begins. Pray now. The next agenda is listening to the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. To all participants, please listen attentively and turn off your microphone. Thank you. Next, we will hear an opening speech by the Dean of the Faculty of Economic and Business, 11 Maret University, Professor Dr. Rendes Joko Suharyanto M.Phams, PhD-AK, which on this occasion will be represented by Professor Dr. Isam Rafuhah, SEMSI, as Deputy Dean Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas 11 Maret Surakarta, to Professor Iza, time and place yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, Rector of 11 Maret University, Prof. Jamal Wibowo, the Dean of Faculty Economic and Business Universitas 11 Maret, Prof. Joko Suharyanto, Head of Accounting Study Program, Mr. Agung Nurpurwokudono, PhD, Head of International Class Program Special Activities, Prof. Dodi Setiawan, and then our distinguished speaker, Dr. Elizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab, and academic staff and lecturer of 11 Maret University, especially Faculty Economy and Business. Dear audience, on behalf of Faculty Economy and Business, I would like to express my appreciation to accounting study program that held this webinar entitled Political Connection and Accounting Research. This topic a great choice because we need to start an academic mentality as a researcher. Also, research related to political connection has recently attracted a lot of interest from researchers, especially researchers in the accounting field. This is related to the latest viewpoint of behavior and social criteria that affect various things in the ever-evolving field of economic and accounting. Dear audience, political connection are connecting with the government or other political feature in various forms of relationship. The relationship can be in the form of partnership with government company, having a shareholder who is politically affiliated, or having one or more founder or owner of a company with a political affiliation. The political connection owned by company have various positive and negative effects based on the various studies that have recently developed. Dear audience, the purpose of this event is to encourage accelerated study completion and improve academic writing skill of the student, especially in the context of published research article in international journal publisher. In this year, the Faculty of Economic and Business has had about 50 published research articles, and Alhamdulillah, by the end of October, there are 43 articles have been published in Scopus Indexes Journal Publisher. This achievement is made possible by the students who have written and published their article in reputable international journal as part of their graduation requirement. Dear audience, in this team we will honor it to thankful for Dr. Elizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab as one of the experts in this field for willingly give some of his time to share his knowledge with our participants here. Thank you, Dr. Elizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab. Distinguished audience, this webinar is part of a series of international class opening event that was recently initiated the accounting study program. This study program have successfully initiated international classes this year together with economic development study program. This class is created responding to the need of the current market in economy. Currently, international exposure has become a special need that must be explored by students. Through this international exposure, students may get to know the outside world better, not only learning about the academic side, but also being able to improve affective and psychomotoric skill. This affective and psychomotoric skill, for example, are critical thinking, problem solving, communication, collaboration, and creative or invention, which are really needed in global competition. Dear audience, finally, to close my remark, I officially opened the webinar entitled Political Connection and Accounting Research. Hopefully, this program can provide useful outcome for the academic community and practitioner in General. And I will say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim to open this webinar. Best regard. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Iza, for the speech. The next agenda is the main agenda which are waiting for. Explanation from our speaker, Dr. Efizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab. This session will be guided by our moderator, Mr. Aditya Pandu Wicaksono, STMAK. Mr. Aditya is a lecturer in Universitas Islam Indonesia, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. He got the first degree from Universitas Islam Indonesia at the year 2013. He held master degree from Universitas Islam Indonesia at the year of 2015. Okay, so Mr. Aditya, the time is yours.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Prof. Iza, Prof. Dodi, and Professor and all academic staff in FEB UNS, Dr. Efizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab, and all webinar participants. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar is a part of the series of international class open activities conducting by Accounting Undergraduate Program, Faculty of Economics and Business, UNS Indonesia. Today's webinar topic is Political Connection and Accounting Research. This topic is very interesting because, as we see in article in many journals, political connection plays a significant role in accounting practices and management decision. And today, we are very lucky having Dr. Efizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab as speaker for this webinar. He will give us a lecture about political connection and research in accounting related to political connection. Okay, let me read the summary of Dr. Efizal biography to closer with Dr. Efizal today. Dr. Efizal is a lecturer in accounting in School of Accounting, Faculty of Business and Law, Curtin University, Australia. Before joining Curtin University, Dr. Efizal was senior lecturer in University Sains Malaysia, Penang, Malaysia. Dr. Efizal received Bachelor of Commerce from University of Western Australia, his master degree from University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia, and received PhD degree from University of Auckland, New Zealand. In terms of teaching interests, Dr. Efizal have taught at both the undergraduate and postgraduate level, such as Master of Commerce, MBA, and DBA programs. Here, he regularly teaches international accounting and auditing standards, financial reporting, accounting statement analysis, and auditing. Dr. Efizal is also an advisor for PhD students and have graduated 5 PhD students in University Sains Malaysia and Curtin University. In terms of research interests, Dr. Efizal's research is around in editor independence, political connection in the capital market, biodiversity based on culture, ethnicity, and social network. Dr. Efizal have published his articles in top-ranked journal or rank A and B journal based on the Australian Business Dean Council journal ranking, such as Journal of Practice and Theory, Journal of International Accounting Research, Pacific Accounting Review, and Asian Review of Accounting. Dr. Efizal served as editorial board for International Journal of Banking and Finance and associate editor for ASEAN Journal of Accounting Research, Journal of Financial Reporting and Accounting, and Journal Pengurusan. Dr. Efizal is also an ad hoc reviewer for ABDC ranked journals such as Mandatory Accountancy Research, International Journal of Auditing, Journal of Business Research, Corporate Governance and International Review, and Emerging Market Finance and Trade. Dr. Efizal received numerous research grants for his research from both internal and external sources such as Curtin University seed funding, incentive grant and short-term grant from University of Science Malaysia, Accounting Research Institute, Universitas Erlangga, and Ohio University. He also received several awards, such as Best Paper Award in Corporate Governance at the Asian Academy of Management Journal of Accounting and Finance Conference, Highly Commended Paper Award, Emerald Publishing Asian Review of Accounting, Best Paper Award at the Financial Market and Corporate Governance Conference, and Outstanding Reviewer Award for Events 2020. Okay, before we go on, I have a few housekeeping notes. For all participants, please mute the microphone during presentation from Dr. Evisal. And if you have a questions for Dr. Evisal, please click raise hand button or write it in the chat box. Okay, without further ado, I send the time and screen to Dr. Evisal. Dr. Evisal, you have 60 minutes for presentation and followed by another 60 minutes for Q&A. Dr. Evisal, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Okay.
Bismillah. All right. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen now, everyone?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for inviting me, Universities UNS, FEB UNS, and would like to say thank you to the Dean, Prof. Joko, the Head of School, Prof. Agong, and a good friend of mine, Professor Dodi, for inviting me to this webinar. I honestly wasn't expecting this to be this formal. I thought it's going to be a short sharing session with the students, but alhamdulillah, inshallah, we'll try to go through this lecture on political connections and accounting research. Okay, so I would like to note that I am not familiar with Zoom because we don't really use Zoom here at Curtin University. If there's a problem with my presentation, please interrupt me so that I can adjust with the presentation. Okay, so as mentioned previously, the political connections and accounting research, it's to put it in a context that the research in political connections is quite abundant. There's so many papers out there. Even in 2021, you probably could get easily 20 to 30 papers that examines political connections and accounting research. Okay. On top of that, there are also papers that discuss or present literature reviews in relation to political connections. Okay, so what I am going to present. So the issue that I had, the challenge that I had is like, how can I deliver a particular lecture that would be different from those reviews? So I'm not sure whether the participants have a copy of my presentation slides, but if you do, you can actually see that I have sort of like divided the topics into several, the lecture into several topics, and I have 4 case studies that I would like to discuss. Okay, 4 case studies based on 4 different countries. All right. Okay. Now, okay. So this is an introduction on political connections. So political connection studies are not new. All right. They are not new in such a way that we have been investigating this particular context on political connection for some time. So earlier papers such as Hall et al. 1957 examined the role of connections among top individuals via cross-shareholdings and interlocks that create an elite group in the UK. This is not even an empirical paper, if I can correctly. It is published in a set of magazines that discuss the interlocking relationship between directors that created an elite group in the UK. All right. The next point is among the first few highlighted cited papers in this area capitalized in Indonesian data based on the firms connected to the then President Suharto. Okay, so okay, now, so this paper is, sorry, I like to type while I'm talking, so it's going to be slightly different kind of presentation. So this paper is Fishman 201, okay? So I will provide you with the annotated PowerPoint later. Okay, Fishman 2001. So this paper, the main premise of this particular paper, they say that because of the nature of the Indonesian capital market, because it's at that time, it's so concentrated on and heavily dependent on being connected or not to President Suharto. So what they did in this particular paper, they basically presented, so they investigated the performance of companies surrounding health rumors of President Suharto at that time. So there were rumors regarding the health of President Suharto, means that whether he's unwell or whether he's being recovered, etc., etc. So they did that particular analysis. So they actually found that those companies that actually connected to President Suharto, or they did not use connected, they used the word dependent on President Suharto, actually suffer more losses surrounding the announcements of his health. So, so that itself represents, form a sort of like a theoretical argument that being connected to a political figure would influence firm performance. Whether it influenced positively or negatively, that is a different context. But what we are trying to say is that if you are being connected to someone or some political parties, your firm performance will be affected. Okay, your performance will be affected. We're going to discuss on how would that happen. Now, this paper, I would say, like the paper by Fishman, 2001, I would say acts an important catalyst to other political connection research and accounting. So with seminal papers such as Fasio et al. 2006, Fasio 2006, and Gould, among others. So what I'm trying to say here is that the role of the Indonesian data is very, very important in terms of political connection around the world now. So there is also another paper by Lewis, also capitalized on the data by connection by in Indonesia for firms connected to President Suharto as well. Okay, and that is published in Journal of Financial Economics, while Fishman is published in American Economic Review. So basically, arguably the top economic journal in the world. So I would say that it is very, very dominant. It is very sort of like influence the research by capitalizing on the Indonesian data. Of course, now after what happened after the demise of President Suharto, the political landscape of Indonesia has changed. Okay, has changed. It's probably not driven by military connections, military presence in the parliament, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the reason why I'm telling you guys this is the fact that Indonesia has played a very major role, important role in political connections around the world. Okay, All right, now, similarly to Fishman 2001, a Malaysian paper by Simon Fong et al. 2015 also investigate a similar approach to Fishman 2001. Okay, now, so that's basically the background. All right, the background. All right, now, okay, just. Sorry, I just want to. All right, now, why is it interesting? Okay, why is it interesting? So, I basically left a slide empty here. So, because I just wanna highlight, and I talked to Professor Dodi. He mentioned to me that the audience will be.
Begitu kah?
Oops. Okay. The audience for this particular talk would include undergraduate students as well. Okay, would include undergraduate students as well. Okay, now, so this is just a simple depiction of the role of political connections. Okay, in terms of the role of in capital market and all. All right, so so everyone know that there's a relationship between sorry. All right. Okay, and also firm performance. Okay, and also firm performance. All right. Okay, so you would expect that the relationship to be positive, meaning that firms with better governance will increase performance with better. That is the sort of like the basic premise, the overall understanding on the role of corporate governance and firm performance. Okay, so that everyone would argue that way. Of course, there's a lot of other papers out there that discuss that this will not happen. Okay, but there are a minority position that takes that corporate governance will not increase for performance. But let's do that another time. Okay, now this is a common understanding. So we want to investigate any relationship, then how we can actually incorporate political connection here. Okay, now, so how do we incorporate political connection here? Okay, now, so the question now here, so for countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, that have that the political connections are very prevalent, then the question is then, what would be the relationship for politically connected firms? Okay, what would be the relationship for politically connected firms, right? So what would be the relationship? Okay. Okay. So there are two possible questions that we can investigate. So what would be the role of political connections in examining the relationship between corporate governance and firm performance? Or would better governance impact the relationship between political connection and firm performance? Now, so this is basically the simple depiction on political connection. So the reason why we're trying to do this is because there are a lot of factors that could influence firm performance in this particular context. Especially as I mentioned earlier in my previous slide, right? The firm performance firm performance they measure within using stock returns for dependent firm to President Suharto at that time would suffer more losses than non-dependent firm surrounding the announcements of his health. Okay, so that is a very simplistic depiction of the role of political connection, because one would say that, okay, why would that matter? Because why would that actually matter? Because you have a lot of other factors that could influence firm performance, right? Corporate governance, size, the risk that they take, the industry. There's a lot of other factors. But why consider political connections? Okay, now, why consider political connection? Now, so why? So because political connection is closely associated with a relationship-based economy. So you can see Goal 2006. So now, one would view connections, either political, social, racial, or economic, would assist the economy in general by identifying the appropriate resources to use to maximize output, means increase profit, or minimize cost transactions. So if this particular view holds, then we will expect the political connection is a good thing. Okay, now, we always have this particular view. We view political connections as having a bad outcome. Okay, so this is probably an incorrect view. I have to be honest here. It is probably an incorrect view. Because political connection can be a good thing, okay? Because you need political connections in relation to expedite transactions, removing red tapes, okay, securing faster grants, okay? Because sometimes for example, there's a need for a particular country to have certain things immediately, okay? I will give you a generic example. I'm not saying whether there's any country that actually did this. For example, you need to expedite the resources pertaining to COVID-19, for example. So you don't have the time to go through open tender or something like that, because that will take some time. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying it happens. Then it is probably a possibility that it will just go through to the companies that they know, that could provide those things for the masses. So then it is actually a good thing, because it provides a lot of other resources upon that. Okay, of course, probably most countries will not go through that particular process. They probably go through open tender and all. but they might not do that just because they want to minimize cost transactions and to expedite certain things. So that's an example of a good thing regarding political connections. Okay, now, the contrary to popular belief, right? Political connections can be applied to both developed and developing countries. So this is another concern that we usually have. So we always think that political connection only exists in Indonesia and Malaysia, but it is not. So there are papers examining political connection in the US and in the UK. So in fact, based on FASIO's 2006 paper, the UK has the most number of politically connected firms globally. Okay, so they have the most number of connected firms. All right, now. So, but of course, you would expect the role of political connections more profound in developing or new economies. All right, more profound. It does not mean that it is a negative relationship. It could be also a positive relationship. Okay, I'm going to talk about that as we go on. Okay, so of course, you would expect this because the capital market is underdeveloped. So, and it's not efficient. I mean, it's weak in terms of efficient market or semi-efficient. So they probably need to rely on certain things to increase the level of inefficiency, to decrease the level of inefficiency. Okay, now, so of course, in terms of in the US or in the UK or even in China, the operationalization of political connection is totally different. Okay, now, all right. Oops. Okay. The role of political connections in developing countries could be viewed as another way to overcome inefficiency in an ideal way. Okay, in an ideal way. So I'll give you an example of new economic policy in Malaysia. So the cause of the new economic policy in 1970 is a noble cause, but it has led to some form of nepotism or what we call a positive cronyism. In such a way that it only helps certain group of ethnic group in Malaysia. Okay. I'm not going to talk much about that, but it's present. It is heavily debated among academics and also regulators back in Malaysia. Okay, now, all right. Most studies use political connections as another means to explain a relationship or phenomenon, like what I have discussed earlier regarding corporate governance and firm performance. So most studies have used political connection as another means to explain a relationship or phenomenon. An example is of an area of research in auditing, which is heavily researched. So, for example, Gould 2006 argues that politically connected firms are riskier and increase the inherent risk viewed by the auditor and resulting in increase in audit risk. Okay, so what Prof. Gould is trying to say is basically that if you have a politically connected firms, then the auditor will perceive that the firms are riskier and hence increase the inherent risk, and they will have to do more testing, it will incur more time, and hence will increase audit fees. So that's one way of looking at it. This is basically saying that, oops, I think. So this one is basically as the determinant, sorry. Yeah. No, not determinants. Yes, as a determinant. Okay, so but there's another paper by Guardami. I think it's 2014 that examines auditor choice. Okay, auditor choice. Sorry.
No?
So that's not me. Everyone's okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. Auditor choice for politically connected firms. So what Godaimi actually trying to do is like they say that politically connected firms will actually appoint higher quality audits. Higher quality auditors. Okay. So that's one way of looking at it. So, all right. Then other studies have followed this particular route and add few more dimensions to Gould 2006. So you can look at even my Google Scholar profile. You can look at on how I add to this particular dimension of paper by Gould 2006. Okay. Now, the use of theories for political connection in accounting research is not comprehensive. It's not comprehensive. What do I mean by not comprehensive? What do I mean by not comprehensive? Not comprehensive means that it is very different from the application of theories in terms of in relative to management studies. In relative to management studies. Okay. Now, management studies, correct. Most studies in accounting research that focus on political connection use agency theories. There has been a recent trend that applies resource dependency theory as well. Okay, resource dependency theory as well. All right. Someone try to someone asking a question. Astri, is it?
Okay, Astri Kurniawati. Can you share a question to Dr. Afizal? Please.
She raised her hand, right?
Yeah, she raised it. Hello, Astri Kurniawati.
I think you have to unmute Astri.
Okay, I think she unintentionally clicked raise.
Okay, that's okay.
Raise hand button. Okay, please continue, Dr. Afizal.
Okay, thank you. Now.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Astri, you have any questions?
Okay.
I think she's good. All right. Now, so next slide, it covers spectrum of areas. Okay, spectrum of areas means so the left-hand side here is the operationalization of political connections. Okay, so if you look at the left-hand side, you see that the defines as connection via various means, political parties connected to individuals, government ownership, government official, and social network. For example, same schools, clubs, and alumni. Okay, now this paradigm of political connection has covered areas in financial accounting, auditing, and finance, or even economics. And you can actually read this particular bit if you find the paper by Habib et al. I think it's in Journal of International Accounting, Auditing and Taxation, published in 2018. Professor Hassan Habib provide a very good review on this particular area. Okay, now. Excuse me. Now, on the right-hand side is corporate political activities. Okay. Now, corporate political activities or CPAs involves political donations. Not sure whether you can actually have that information back in Malaysia and also Indonesia. I don't think so. We have this information in Australia and also in the US. We have corporate lobbying. There's also a recent paper that investigate impact of corporate lobbying after 9/11, okay, on firm value. And political ideology. Okay, very limited studies examining political ideology, but gaining momentum recently. Okay, and studies have examined this particular bit by looking at whether they are basically they are rightists or leftists, for example. So political ideology can be, they usually people look into in the US by looking at whether the CEO is basically tailored to Democrat or Republican. So they have different political ideologies. Very similar to Australia though, whether you are a Labour supporter or a Liberal supporter, for example. So they are basically not a rightist or such, not really a rightist or a leftist view, but they have two different political ideology. Okay, then this is quite an interesting area, especially on the right hand side. Okay, on the right hand side. Now, okay. No, sorry. Okay, what are the common theories used? Okay, so these are the commonly used theories. Now, so these are the two commonly used theories in terms of political connection studies. Of course, there's probably a lot of other theories that you could use. Social network theory, can use that one as well. Resource-based views, institutional theory. So you can use those kind of theories as well. Okay, but this is probably the commonly used two theories applied for accounting research. So you have the agency theory, probably the most commonly used theory to describe the role of political connections, usually embedded in the argument. The premise is that the political connection of connectedness will influence the information environment, increase information asymmetry, and this could be due to several reasons such as uncertainty in income stream, weaker governance, inability to tap the external market, and higher probability of bailouts. So basically what the agency is trying to say is that it influenced the relationship between the principal and the agent because of these particular reasons. So we don't know where actually politically connected firms actually get the money, their income from. Okay, and they are weaker in governance, means that they are very low in disclosure quality. And being connected means that there is a possibility that you are unable to tap into the external market. Tapping to the external market means that you are unable to secure external grant or external funding. So you need the funding from the government to fund your daily day-to-day operation. Okay, so because of this kind of phenomena, it eventually will suggest that in this particular aspect that for agency theory, it will have a negative impact. It will have a negative impact. Okay. Okay. Now, on the right-hand side is the resource dependency theory. So a competing theory commonly used as alternative argument for the role of political connections. This is not new, but it's not really an old argument. It has been around since probably about 10 years ago in terms of political connection papers. So being connected is needed to secure resources for the firm. So these theoretical concepts is applicable mostly for developing or underdeveloped markets. And I would say that the notion of political connection help in reducing costs, increase the firm's visibility. Now, increase the firm visibility for external market as well as investors seeking assurance. So this as an alternative argument. As you see here, it says, I see here say inability to tap the external market, right? But alternatively, if you want to tap on external market, you should be politically connected, because then the lender said that, hey, this company is actually politically connected, that they have good collateral, they have good backing from the government.
so we can give them money. So that is also another way of looking at it. Okay, there's also another way of looking at it. And there are papers out there, especially in China, that use this particular theory. Means that you need to be connected in order to tap into external market to get some more assurance. So that's the important thing of being politically connected. So in this particular context, when you talk about resource dependency theory, then you have basically a positive position. Okay, a positive position. Okay, now, any questions before we move on? Let's see. Check. Okay.
Okay, Michael Laba, please say your question.
So how could we justify the exit theory in relation to high-low disclosure in these politically connected firms?
Sorry, Dr. Afizal.
Oh, sorry?
Michael Laba has raised their his hand. Michael Laba.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the time. I will introduce myself before I ask the question.
Yeah.
My name is Michael Brikololong. I was from University of Catholic Vidya Mandira, especially student master of management.
Yes, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, sir. I see you say, especially in slide 1, particle connection, especially background about particle landscape Indonesia has been changed on Suharto leadership.
Yeah, after.
Yeah, slide 1, Doctor.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Mika? I think he's hanging.
Yeah.
Mikael?
Hello, Michael?
Some disruption in the...
Yeah, I think...
In the internet?
He has the problem with the internet.
Okay. We can come back to him. Ika Pramatasari asks, how could we justify the exit theory in relation to high-low disclosure in this particular connected firm? So I would say, we're going to come to Mikael later. Ika, I think Ika can hear me. Of course, I'm not going to type the answer. I think Dr. Ika. Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Afrizal, yeah.
So it would say that if you have high. Okay, now the basic notion is like if you have high disclosure, then you would actually be disclosing more information, right? If probably that's okay. Let's begin there. So you have a positive relationship between disclosure and basic corporate governance. Okay. That's a basic argument there. So usually politically connected firms, especially in the case of Malaysia, you would have less disclosure. Okay, less disclosure. Now, that's one aspect of it. So if you have, in relation to agency theory, it means that if you have higher disclosure, then it will actually decrease the agency cost, right? And decrease in information symmetry, then it will be much better for them, for politically connected firms, right? Now, that's one case of it. But at the same time, we also need to understand on the role of disclosure. So if you're looking at, for example, corporate governance disclosure, which probably most of the countries has made mandatory, right? I'm not sure about Indonesia because I'm not very familiar with Indonesian study, but for Malaysia, most of the corporate governance codes are basically mandatory. Now, the issue of making a disclosure requirement mandatory, then it will lead to less variation. You with me, Ika? Dr. Ika?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, so it has less variation, okay? So you have all companies must disclose this particular
Or the
rules.
mandatory one. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Or the
yeah. So
mandatory.
yeah, mandatory. So based on that mandatory disclosure, we won't be able to identify good or bad companies. So that is usually the concern regarding mandatory disclosures. So how we differentiate? Of course, we can differentiate by looking at voluntary disclosures. So in terms of MCCG, you have voluntary disclosures requirement as well. But over time, since 2001, almost all companies are disclosing those voluntary disclosures as well. So it has a side effect in terms of corporate governance. We tick all the boxes in terms of disclosure, but over time, it limits our ability to differentiate between good and bad companies. So that is what's happening now, I would think. Okay, but going back to your question, yes, I would say that if you have better disclosure, the agency cost will actually decrease. So that is a basic understanding of the impact of disclosure to agency theory. So you have more information, you're disseminating more information, right? More information to the public, to everyone, then the level of information between the principal and the agent will actually converge in one way. Of course, not 100%, but we converge in one way. So you have better disclosures, lower agency costs, lower disclosure, higher agency costs. So that would probably be it. But for politically connected firms, then it depends on whether politically connected. Okay, for politically connected firms, there are also competing arguments toward it. So one, politically connected firms do not care about disclosure. That's what I found in my study. But if you read like paper, I'm going to type here in the message box. If you read paper by Ball, I think et al. Oops, sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's 2003. I think I can't remember. I can send the paper to you. They are saying that no, politically connected firms should discuss the same thing because they want to depart away from being politically connected. Okay, I'm just going to give you an example, but don't quote me on this. So, for example, because I'm not very familiar with these politically connected firms in Indonesia. So, katakanlah we have connected firms in Indonesia, okay? And we are aware of all the negative things when you are being connected to President Suharto. Contoh, this is an example. Okay, so how are we going to say that we are not connected? So we know that being connected to President Suharto is bad. Okay, based on the empirical papers, I'm not saying it is bad in reality. Okay, but how a firm is going to behave to avoid that negative perception? So they're going to behave like normal firms. They're going to disclose like normal firms. They're going to act like normal firms. They're going to try to tap on whatever the normal firms are trying to do. So that's what the argument raised by Ball, I think 2003, if I can recall, I think published in Journal of Accounting Research. So that's how one way of looking at it. Okay, it's not that complex, but there are arguments surrounding it. So we can discuss over. I hope I've answered the question. There's another question here by Junaidi. Aditya, I read the question. Okay, how could we measure the political connection? Which paper must reference to measure political connection and competition? Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, okay, hold on. Okay. Okay, Junaidi, this is the paper, but yes, I understand that, but you can just start from there, Junaidi. You can start from the one, but yeah, you can start there, begin there. Of course, it's 5,000 papers, yes, you're right, probably more than that. So you can start there, okay? You can start there, but I'm not sure whether they actually investigate paper that has to do with corporate political activities. Corporate political activities, you need to read Yep. Hold on. No, not this one. But I'm gonna type it anyway. That one. Okay. All right. There's another paper, but it's just not showing up here in my Mendeley. Okay. All right. Can we move on? Yes, we can move on. Yeah. Okay. Bismillah. Okay. Now, why is it important? I'm sorry. Bismillah. Now, okay. This was mentioned by. It was mentioned earlier before I gave the talk regarding why is it important to examine. So, politics is a part of government. I mean, it's so the development of the capital market depends on the government. So it's how you set the need. I mean, if you look at countries, right? Like if you look at presidents after President Suharto, what would be the major changes that they made? You will be able to identify that. You'll be able to feel that. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be surrounding accounting. Rules and regulation. I give you an example. I give you an example on what do you call that? Accounting graduates. Accounting graduates. So for example, you mentioned earlier before we begin the program, we talk about twinning program twinning program with Curtin University, with my university, right? Now, so that might be an initiative by the current president, the previous president. Now, I'm not saying that he initiated that, but in that particular government, okay, they have a lot of initiative that had to do with developing the undergraduate capabilities in terms of accounting or auditing. So that itself would have an impact in the overall quality of the capital market. So studies have done that. To be honest with you, studies have done that. It's not like, okay, what's the point of me doing a twinning program? Or what's the point of me doing accounting in certain universities? So that itself is an empirical research question in relation to the development of the capital market or accounting per se. Okay, so don't take this kind of things lightly, because what are you doing, everyone? I mean, we are doing accounting studies not only for work, but when you are into the market, right? Into the market, then working, then you will be a part of the development of the capital market and the quality of the capital market. Okay, now, so many studies have investigated relationship between corporate governance and performance. So the inclusion of the political connection will provide a different outlook on the role of corporate governance. Okay, it reflects stability or not, and this could be a very interesting in research. Okay, now, okay, Aditya, how many minutes I have left?
It's still on time, Dr. Afizal.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry, I just want to know, because it's already 11. So what are the areas of concern? So now, these are the, some studies in the paper have actually highlighted the thing that concerns them. Come on. Sorry, Bismillah. Come on. No, because of the Zoom, it's covering my slides here. So I cannot press ni. Sekejap ya. Allahu Akbar. How can I remove this? Hide video panel. Oops. Show video panel. Okay. Sorry. Ika, I will get back to your question, okay? Now, so there are some areas of concern. Sorry about that. The most common concern that I would raise is a choice of the binary indicator for political connection. So most studies, right, they use the same definition by FASIO 2006. They use over and over until today. So it has been, what, 15 years, 16 years from now? And usually studies have assumed this connection remain constant over time and could be true for some countries. Okay, so for example, in 97, 98, am I right? President Suharto resigned in 98, 97, 98?
Yeah, 98.
98, yeah, 98. So you cannot assume that those, can you assume that those companies that remain connected to President Suharto at that time remain connected now? So that's, I don't know the question, I don't know the answer to it. So it might not, it might be, so I do not know. But for example, for Malaysia, that I actually checked it, it has remained constant over time because we don't really have a change of a government in Malaysia. We had a change of a government, but that only about 18 months. And the connection remained constant over time. Could be particularly true for some countries, from some smaller countries, that this connection will actually remain constant over time. But probably not for Indonesia, not for US or UK, that might change over time. Okay, now, this is the concern that I have. But we don't really have other better way to calculate, to operationalize the particular definition. So other studies have departed from this definition or used an alternative measure for political connections. For example, my paper, Giz Abdul Wahab, used ethnicity as another proxy for political connection in Malaysia. So, okay. All right. Okay. Although this is not uncommon, as other earlier papers such as Johnson and Mitten and Gould use similar method, but not as the main analysis. So we use ethnicity as another proxy for political connection. Okay. All right. A working paper by Mustun and Abdul Wahab applied a similar approach in the Mauritian context. We also apply a similar approach in the Mauritian context. So these are some areas of concern. So there must be, we were going to talk about on how we're going to do that, but this, I think, it is probably be one way of looking at the concern that if you want to write a paper, we need to understand the background of a particular country. Now, so my suggestion for future research is to take into consideration of the background of the country. So many countries probably neglect this bit. Okay, all right, now, by understanding the country historical context, the story of political connection will be richer and not biased. Will be richer and not biased. Not biased means that academically, as a researcher, academically, we must be able to tell the true story based on fact and factual. We cannot make assumptions. Okay, we cannot make assumptions. So, in fact, for example, papers in terms of Malaysian papers, in terms of connections, we have papers that investigate connections right before 1957. So we have those kind of papers already. So we need to read those kind of papers. We cannot just depend on FASIO 2006 or Gould 2006 by looking at those data and saying we have the same premise over and over. So it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. I give you an example. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. During Suharto's and Sukarno and Suharto's time, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I might be wrong. So you have military appointees in the parliament, correct? Am I right? Someone can back me up here. You have a military appointment or appointments. Let me remove the word military. You have appointments, parliamentary appointments into parliament. Members that being appointed, not members of parliament that being won through election. So you have that particular context. We don't have that in Malaysia or even in Australia, but you have that at one particular stage. I don't think so. You have that now. So you remove that, and that, I think back in 97 and 98, that creates a lot of issue because there's an imbalance of power between what people want and what the government wants or military wants. So you need to understand that. Okay, now when we write papers regarding Indonesian political connections or military connections, that has to be in the context. I'm not saying it is in a negative way, but you need to understand that on how that develops. So most of the studies, right? Most studies don't do that. Let me rephrase that. Most studies probably have done that, but they are not present in the paper. So they don't talk about, okay, when we talk about military connections in Indonesia, so we need to talk about the background and how does it start. It will not be a negative part when you write one sentence regarding the history of military connections in Indonesia. That's fact. Of course, you have to avoid sensitive stuff which you shouldn't talk about. Okay, I think you know about that. So that should be totally avoided. I mean, totally insensitive stuff that has nothing to do with the paper, then should be avoided. Same goes to Malaysia as well. Or any other countries. Okay, now understanding a country's historical context will provide a better understanding of how political connection would behave and could assist in operationalization of the variable. Okay, so now this is the key. More importantly, the understanding of the context will provide a better explanation of the results. So this is what we did for GIS and Abdul Wahab. So in fact, our paper suggests that the ethnicity has a better result than politically connected firms. Okay, so because of our understanding, it's quite sensitive though, I have to admit that. But we have to do something else to show on how would you want to measure political connection. Now, measuring the political connection spectrum that we have discussed earlier. Now, I give an example here, like in Malaysia. So Fu et al. Consider old and new connections for Malaysian firms. A latest paper by T. and Kasapilai, 2021, differentiate according to years of connections, new connection, older connections. And Wong and Hu, 2018, Professor Hui visited you guys in 2018 or something like that, developed different types of connections, this is quite good if you want to look at Malaysian connection papers. Okay, now, all right. So there's a few questions here. Okay, there's a message by Akmal. Okay, thank you, Akmal. Okay, now I let's go back to okay, now let's go back to, I'm going to pick and choose, okay? Is there any possibility to use different base theory on the political connection topics in relation between the international background of countries, emerging countries? And that's a good question. That's a good question, actually. So Masina actually asked here, if you guys can look at the chat, is there any possibility to use different base theory on the political connection topics if we research between the institutional background of the countries, between emerging countries and developed countries? Okay, I need to revisit this, but on top of my head, the theories that I've mentioned earlier will still be applicable, but the extent of use of those theories might differ. So for example, I would say Don't quote me 100% on this one. I might be wrong. So, for example, emerging countries, you would expect that maybe resource dependency theory will be more applicable. For example, Saudi, you probably would. I mean, the resource dependency theory would probably be there, or any of the GCC countries. Or in relation to developed countries, then I would say that you'll probably be heavy slated to agency theory rather than resource dependency theory. So I hope I've answered that question, Masina. Arif, for Indonesian context, can we use ethnicity as another proxy for political connection, and how? Because ethnicity is heterogeneous. I have. That's one thing. Very good question by Arif. I do have a good answer to that. I don't think so. You can. You won't be able to differentiate between Malays or Chinese or Indians in Indonesia, because we differentiate that according to the names. You can't, because everyone has the same name, not same name, similar names that they could represent. So unless it is a disclosure requirement, which I think is not entirely a good idea, then you can't actually differentiate between that. But it does not mean that it is a limitation. Don't think about that as a limitation. Please think about along the line that there are other ways for you to measure connection. We're going to look into that a bit more, Arif. Okay. Now, Ika, am I correct? The first will lower agency cost will lower by being. Am I correct? The firms with lower agency costs by being. Well, this is a causality question. So Ika asks, am I correct? The firms will lower agency costs by being politically connected firms. So this is chicken and egg question. So I want to lower my agency costs, then I want to be politically connected. I don't have a good answer to that one, to be honest. But you would assume that politically connected firms in general would have higher agency costs rather than lower. Junaidi, I think, answered the question to Ika. This is an obsolete that placements have lower cost of debt, right? But these politically connected firms are inefficient. Lower cost of debt or higher cost of debt? So I'm not sure about that one. I need to read up on that one. Thank you for this question. So, okay, let's move on. All right, now we're going to have, I'm going to talk about case studies. 4 case studies here. Malaysia, I think Mauritius, Indonesia, and also Saudi. So the reason why I present this 4 case study is I'm trying to tell you guys that the particular connection is very different in certain countries. Okay. So this is Malaysia. We talk about this again and again. I mean, regarding Malaysia. So it highlighted as the second most number of connected firms in the world. So at that time, it probably is still. Earlier studies have capitalized the Gomez and Jomo 1990 data sets and the definition of being connected in Malaysia. So they use this kind of data set. If you read this book, it's a very good book. But the definition involves also regarding they establish the relationship between one person with another person by saying that they go to the school together, for example. Okay, which that's their definition. Okay, it stays like that for some time, right? Now, some of the seminal papers include Johnson and Mitten 2003 and Gould 2006. You can look up at their definitions as well. It's very similar to Gomez. Well, they use actually Gomez and Jomo's data set, and that they added a few. Now, the main premise of these studies are connection made to the then ruling coalition, but as a national or national front, they are not the coalition anymore, although they are part of it. I don't really understand what's going on, to be honest. But these connections are primarily with the key figures with the government and also political parties. Now, the definition of political connection excludes the connection made with the opposition parties. made with opposition parties, because just data is not available in prior 2018. I have tried to collect some data, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's very difficult to identify those companies, especially 2018, that have connection to opposition parties. And so everyone, we just don't want to be connected to or known to be connected to opposition parties. Okay. Now, however, the nature of connections over time in Malaysia do not change. Firms will remain connected regardless whether there is a change of government or not. Okay. So it's just the same. It's probably just the same. Okay. In fact, in Malaysia, you would say that there are other ways for them to be connected, right? Their ownership, their government grants, etc., not only through direct connections with political figures. Now, we discussed this earlier. So, okay, recent papers have taken a bolder step by classifying Malay Bumiputera directors as politically connected. Okay, this is I have to admit that this is a sensitive area. This is a sensitive area. Okay. I still remember when I was at University of Science Malaysia, when I gave a paper on not me. I think one of my PhD students, I'm not sure whether she's here, talk about Bumiputera directors being politically connected. And one of the reviewers, one of the examiners, one of the internal examiners just don't buy the idea. She just said that it's wrong to classify that as politically connected. So maybe in the context of overall Malay Bumiputeras, then it is true that probably holds. But we're talking about directors here. So the Malay Bumiputera directors it's about only 30%, probably less than that, in the capital market. So in order for them to remain competitive in the capital market, there have to be some level of connections. So that's why we define them as politically connected directors. And this is also based on the neo-economic policy back in 1970s and what are the initiatives that they want to increase the Bumiputera participation in Malaysia. So these are the papers. We talk about this again and again for the last 20-30 minutes or more regarding these papers. These are very seminal papers. Not my paper, Johnson and Pitton and Gould 2006. Well, I do hope that my paper will be a seminal paper one day. But all right, now I developed, if you read my paper, Ghis Abdul Wahab, they developed the arguments by examining the historical context of political connections in Malaysia. So we argue that, and based on the argument that said that, hey, based on this argument, we say that Bumiputera directors are politically connected. People might disagree, but we want to say it like that because we have our reasons saying that. People can disagree, that's totally fine, but we have our facts to support that particular argument. Now, all right, on this particular slide, next slide, right? Okay, this is a working paper. This is a paper that is currently under review in Asia Pacific Journal of Accounting and Economics. We have not heard of this paper yet, but we look into ethnicity-based directors network. I cannot distribute the full paper here. I'm terribly sorry because it's currently under review. We can. This is what we did in relation to ethnicity-based network. So it's a new strand of research, especially in relation to political connections, where we tap into the social network analysis. So we use various centrality measures of social network. We met the entire base network of 4,416 directors for a sample of 745 listed firms. Okay, now, so we suggest that the network created by certain ethnic groups, I think it's Malay, would matter to earnings management. Okay, all right. right? So, but we argue here in relation to secrecy. But the overall paper actually suggests that it's an important notion on political connections as well. Okay, now that's the first case study. Now the second case study is on Mauritius. Okay, this is a very interesting topic. Okay, now political connection in Mauritius, very limited evidence on political connection in Mauritius. If you want to find any paper on political connections and earnings quality or accounting in Mauritius, there's none, zero. Okay, we are the first paper. We are revising the paper to submit to Journal of International Accounting Research. Okay, Mauritius political history controlled by two families. Okay, because I'm doing this paper with my PhD student, and it's very unique because the country is being controlled by two families. So at probably one stage of Indonesia, they are being controlled by one family. Well, no, I'm not sure. I might be wrong. Okay, but Mauritian political history controlled by two families means that the prime minister or the president kept on just rotating between these two families. Okay, so that's one very unique context of Mauritius. And Mauritius is a very small country. Okay, now it's an ethnicity-based capital market, very similar to Malaysia, but they have Franco-Mauritian, which is basically the white Mauritian or the France, control the capital market, but very limited, especially in the government. They basically control the capital market, 80% participation, but very limited participation in the capital market, in the government. They had one person, no more now, he's retired, and that's about it. The percentage of as a citizen or resident of Mauritius is very low. On the different spectrum, you have an Indo-Mauritian controlled by the government, but limited participation in the capital market. So main political parties are dominated by them. So the background of the capital market is similar to Malaysia with few exceptions. So these are the exceptions. So you look at the exceptions there. Okay, now, made of three main ethnicity groups: Malaysia, Malay, Chinese, and Indians, but Mauritius is four groups. So you have here, you have Franco, which is only 2%, but they control almost 80% of the capital market. Indo make up of 67% of the population, but there's very minimal of them in the capital market. Now, Malay 68%, Chinese 72%, but Chinese control almost like 60 to 70% of capital market in Malaysia. Okay, now, the group do works together and have their belief in sharing of the resources. At one stage, pre-COVID, the unemployment rate is close to zero in Mauritius. If you read papers regarding Mauritian political economy, they are in such a way that they are able to sit down and decide that, okay, they don't. What I'm trying to say here that they manage to sit down and say that, okay, I'm going to control these resources, you're going to control resources, I'm going to control resources, and everyone is happy about it. Okay, there were no racial tension. They only happened once in 1999. But other than that, it's all good. Okay. But in Malaysia, it's a bit different. It's a bit different because there's still some racial concerns, racial tensions in Malaysia. We have to admit that it's not really uncommon. It's not it's an open secret. Okay. But we also observe an increase in the Malay and people participation in the capital market. Okay. So this is an ethnicity-based view of political connection, which the reason I'm showing you guys this is that Malaysia is not the only one. There's another country that's very similar to Malaysia. But the way how they develop the capital market is different. So we need to understand that if we are not in the know of, say for example here, if we are assuming that Mauritius had the same background in Malaysia, then we can develop a similar hypothesis. Well, it is not. So they have a different background in terms of the political development in terms of Mauritius government. So it's very it's quite important to understand that. And then they have remained independent for some time. And Franco-Mauritian, even though they're only 2%, they still can be very dominant in the capital market. And they have to ask why that happens. So why that happens. So that's all the kind of arguments that we need to ask ourselves. Why would that happen? Okay. All right. Now, I just want to go to the next slide before I move on to the question. So this is the political connection and board history value leverage Mauritius. This is the working paper that I'm working on with my PhD student in Mauritius. Okay, so we find here politically connected firms negatively impact the value levels of earnings and book value. Now, we argue that Franco-Mauritians would constrain the negative impact of political connection. We argue it in a way that Franco-Mauritian, because they're very experienced, they control 80% of the market, and they are not politically connected. They are not politically connected, so they perform like a check and balance to the government. So then they would eventually constrain the negative impact of political connection. So that's our argument to it. So what will be the role of... so I'll give you an example, a very simple example. So would you think that military directors in politically connected firms in Indonesia behave like this? Or they're going to play around? They're going to play along with the government? So this is the empirical question. I'm not saying that they do, but it's just an empirical question. So, but however, we find constructive result for Indo-Mauritian that says they're an integral part of the government. So they're just there, just follow the government. I'm a part of the government. I'm Indo-Mauritian, I'm a part of the government, so I should follow what the government says. So I will not go to monitor. I'm not going to asking questions. But for Franco-Mauritian, they have a duty to do that. I mean, they perform a duty for the shareholders and all by doing that. So this is a very interesting paper. Hopefully it will have a good home. But the reason why I'm telling you guys this, showing this, is the different background would have different implication in relation to the research questions. Okay, now, before we move on to the next two case study, I'm going to look at the chats, the questions.
There is a question from Sonia Kasmi Rambe, Dr. Rizal.
Okay, Sonia, what is the effect of the connection accounting for capital? I'm not gonna name Sonia because what is the effect of the connection accounting for capital density, positively leveraged firm size on? I don't understand your question here. What is the effect of the connection? Well, I can. Well, in terms of capital intensity, then you would expect. I'm not sure, but okay. Now let me just go back to Sonia's question here. So let's go back to the theories that I used, the agency theory and also the result pressure theory. Then you were able to answer that in terms of profitability, capital intensity, and leverage, because they all have competing arguments. But on tax aggressiveness in general, you would see that they will probably have, they will be more tax aggressive, right? Yeah, correct, more tax aggressive. So Sonia, you can read this paper if you want to. Sebentar. Save it. So this is for Sonia. Sonia, you can read that paper if you want to. In the CPA research, there is no operation evaluation to measure CPA in terms of Junaidi. You can measure political donations though. You can do that. It's not difficult. Corporate lobbying as well. It's not difficult for you to find measures. Political ideology as well. They'll be able to operationalize that. Okay. All right. Let me just share with you. Okay, this is not related to our talk, but if you want to find out a very excellent paper on culture in Indonesia, you read this paper. Please. Okay, you read that paper. Okay. Okay, Mikhail, you can ask the question now.
Okay, thank you for the time. I'm sorry in advance, in my area there was a power outage, so that my network was disrupted. Please allow me to ask again.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, doctor. My question is about slide 1.
Okay.
The issue you say, political connection, especially a background about political landscape Indonesia has been changed on Suharto leadership.
Correct.
That means we have a relationship about develop accounting research political connection. What is one factor that directly influence the development of accounting research, especially during the political reform at the time? I mean, what we know at the time of Suharto leadership was very strict in the development of various aspects for element of economy itself. How or what factor influence the development of accounting research at the time?
Okay, is that your question, Mikhail?
Yes.
Okay, I have to be honest here. Oh, what happened here? What did I do? Who colored this thing? Is it me?
No, it's not from you.
Oh,
It's from participant.
oh, someone colored that thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Can someone undo that? Wallahu alam, I do not know. Okay, now going back to Mikhail's question, I have to be very honest here, Mikhail. I have not performed any research in Indonesia. That's one. Okay, that's one. So correct if I'm okay. Now, all right. Now let's go back to. Okay, let just hold on. Okay. Hold on. I think I can answer that, but okay. Let's go back. Let's just try to focus on the thing that I know. I don't know everything, of course. Let's focus on Malaysia, for example. I think the question is very similar. So if you look at Malaysia, I see Malaysia political landscape has not changed over time. It's very similar. However, in Malaysia, the political initiative changes over time. The political initiatives, they change over time. So for instance, if you look at this paper, let me just show it to you. Bismillah. Okay, Mikhail, I'm going to post this. You can see that paper. Can you see that paper, Mikhail, in the chat? Yeah. So that paper actually discussed the political initiative over time that has to do with ethnic politics. So if I apply this particular concept in Indonesia, then you would expect that the initiative over time would influence. Initiative over time performed by political parties over time that would influence the accounting research as well. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure who's that recording thing. So in terms of, for example, in terms of Indonesia, please don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert. Okay. For example, over time. For example, I give you an example. I give you an assumption. Sorry. So, for example, during President Suharto, there's a heavily presence of military appointments in the parliament. Then you don't have that anymore. You probably don't. I don't think so. You have that anymore. So that itself presents a lot of changes. So military appointments would have influence in the decision made by the government, but not anymore. Okay, that itself presents some changes over time in terms of what would happen in terms of loans to capital market. There are papers already investigated that about cost of capital, for example, or firm performance, earnings quality. There's a lot of changes just because of that particular change pre and post Suharto. Okay, pre and post Suharto. I'm actually looking at you, Mikhail, because my thing is over here. So can I move? Oh, I can actually move it here. Oh, sorry, I just knew that. Sorry, I'm not very good in doing Zoom thing. Okay, now. Okay, so that would probably be an example. So going back to your question, I'm not sure whether you heard about the political spectrum. So that political spectrum also, Mikhail, can also mean that the changes over time regarding policies. So for example, if you read that paper by Muhammad Yusof, it's from lecturer from UUM, they actually mentioned about, okay, what will happen in this particular period, whether Bumiputera will have more money or not. So then, okay, what are the advantages what are the programs that the Malaysian government provide for Bumiputera? So that itself, even though it's not, we can't assume that everyone gets it, right? We can't, but there's an assumption that, okay, the provision is already there for Bumiputera firms. Then you would expect that Bumiputera firms will be politically connected. So something like that. Same goes to the initiative by, how many presidents you have now? After President Suharto, 5? Is it 5? 1, 2, 3. This is the 5th one, right?
Suharto is...
No. Post Suharto. Bapak Joko sekarang is what? Number 6?
Number
7.
Number 7, okay.
Bowie is number 7.
Yeah, but because number 7, but you have the change because of Megawati, bukan?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, yeah, so this, 6 or 7. Okay. I managed to get that one right. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. Now let's go back to our presentation. So we have here case study number 3, which is Indonesia. I have a caveat here. So I'm going to close this chat. I have a caveat here. So please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not very familiar with the context of military. So okay, I'm being honest here. So saya jujur, I'm not going to lie, but this is what I'm actually writing a paper on military connection. Okay, so there are political connection involves on 2 types: political connections and military connections. I'm unaware of any other than these 2 that describe political connections. Okay, now there are 2 very influential papers in study contextualized Indonesian data, and as I mentioned earlier, Lewis and G 2006, and also Fishman. It's a very influential paper, and both study focus on connection to the then President Suharto. All right, now. Oops. Excuse me. Bismillah. Okay, now there are also studies using military connection used as another proxy for political connections in Indonesia, or again by Ahsan Habib. There are also papers by Dr. Iman Haria Mawan. I'm not sure whether he's present here now. He's at Universitas Erlangga in Surabaya. He has published, I think, maybe 3 to 4 papers that focus on military connection. Now, some studies opted not to, instead of focusing on the military literature in highlighting the role of military personnel in the capital market. So there are, in terms of military connection, there's a whole bunch of literature. So you need to be aware of that. But in Korea, for example, they use a set of literatures that are focusing on military connection, military directors. So they have a set of literature. Nothing has to do with political connection. But in Indonesia, you can actually use that particular set of literature. Then you can converge that with political connection. This is very important. Why? Why you can do this is because of the background of capital market in Indonesia, right? President Suharto himself, he's a general, right? He's a former general, right? President Sukarno is a former general. So you have that, and also President Bambang, also a former general. So you have that background. In other countries, they might, but in the region, or you have also other countries that have that in the region, but it's so prevalent there in Indonesia that you could capture those information. You probably cannot capture that in Laos or Myanmar. It's quite different. Or Myanmar, yes, you can, but I'm not sure whether they have a good capital market as compared to Indonesia. Okay, and you have to understand here. I mean, you can do all this by just understanding the background of Indonesian capital market, a history capital market. I think you guys learned all that, right? Okay, before pre-independence and post-independence and the role of militaries in the capital market. You need to read those kind of books, okay? Or books. Usually it's books, not articles. Okay. Now, all right. Indonesian market participation in capital market is quite dominant. Just to note that there is nothing wrong. I mean, please don't think this is a necessity matter because you're doing it based on facts. Those military directors, they need to mention that in their biography, right? They mention whether they are actually an existing military or past. So then always strategically they are competing arguments. Okay. Now, all right. Now these are quite different. These are other studies by political connection in Indonesia. So I know Anders Johansson. So I know him from Stockholm. This is social media and politics in Indonesia. So the paper actually discuss on the role of social media. There's another one. I forgot to bring you guys by Johansson. Let me just try to find that here. Yeah, it's not here, so I'm gonna put in the chat. So going back to Mikael, if she's not here. So Mikael, oh, sorry, not this one. Sorry, not this one. How can I delete this? Sorry. All right, in answering Mikael's question, we can read this paper, that paper. Okay, that paper. Right now, okay, Mikael's not here, but he left. But anyway, but these are the papers. These are the papers. Mikael, if you're there, so you can read this paper, the last paper there, on political change and the business elite in Indonesia. This is post-Suharto, basically. Okay. All right. Okay. All good. Okay. So these are the paper by Anders Johansson. He's an economist. He looks into social media and politics. But if you read the first paper, social media and politics, they actually highlight the companies that are being controlled by politicians and stuff, which is quite good. So you can actually investigate that. And there are a lot of papers out there, quite a number of papers that utilize data from Twitter, okay, or Facebook, or LinkedIn. So to look at connections. Right, now. Next question is Saudi. Okay, now Saudi is a bit different. Saudi is a research development and accounting literature as they investigate the role of political connection in Saudi Arabia or GCC, and studies classify the ruling family as a proxy for connections. Okay, All right, now I don't have the abstract for this particular study, but the recent finding that I had suggests that it is actually a good thing. Means that, for example, I investigated the relationship between royal directors and also the network created by royal families and earnings management, and it actually is negative. Means that it's better earnings quality. Means that it's actually good. So then you need to understand and how it works. So you cannot just say that, oh, actually it's good. But if you look at the background of Saudi using tribal culture, using wasta, then you will be able to develop that context on whether political connections is actually good or not for Saudi Arabia. So that is a very important thing. So, okay. Now you guys have looked at 4 different contexts, 4 different backgrounds. Then all 4 different backgrounds have different optimization in terms of political connections. Okay. Malaysia different, Mauritius different, similar but different. Indonesia different, and Saudi different. But all say this, but all pointing out to political connections, different arguments. So this is basically, we cannot just have a stereotype thinking. We need to think out of the box too on how we discuss the role of political connections here. Now, recent developments and trends. Oops. Sebentar. You guys with me, okay? With me? You guys with me? So, all right. Now, studies of political connections still gaining momentum and popular among researchers. Recent studies have focused on elections, change of government, political uncertainty, political ideology, and the role of media. The primary argument is still the same, but optimization might be different. Okay, the primary arguments. I'm not saying about secondary argument. Primary arguments is just still the same, very, very similar. Okay, now, sorry. Okay, what do I think we should do? Okay, we have discussed this again and again. So these are the things that we should do. Okay, we need to understand the context of political connections better. So we need to read other papers on political connections that mainly published in other areas as economics, finance management, and policy-based paper. So for me, for example, when I read the paper, when I write the paper on the Mauritian, I actually read papers on income distribution between Franco-white and Indo-white, Franco-Mauritians and Indo-Mauritians. So we need to understand that. So when we read those papers, I said, oh, this is why that happened. So then it is feature. Then you know that particular historical context. It's quite important though. Now, we should try to understand the historical context of such connections. It's very, very important. This will make your study richer, but more importantly, right, as an academic, appreciate the story behind the political landscape of a particular country. So you do research regarding Indonesia, you read all the history of Indonesia, you will appreciate more of what happened in your country. You will appreciate your culture, you appreciate where's your country now. So of course we have all complaints regarding what's happening, right? But inshallah, then we have understanding of how we actually got there. So this is quite important. So for us to understand, we don't just run regressions by looking at dummy variables and say there's a result and start telling stories. Well, it gets into a paper, into research, but as an academic, we need to read all that. So then when people ask, okay, why you develop this kind of arguments? You say, okay, we developed this argument because we read this particular paper saying that this and this and this, suggesting that. So we need to be prepared. Okay, we need to be prepared and we to enrich ourselves with the historical context. Okay, it might be boring, I know, history and stuff, but it's a good thing when it comes to developing your own theoretical arguments. Okay, now, are we in the last slide? Yes, we are in the last slide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Afizal. Okay, I invite all participants to ask the question for Dr. Afizal. Please click the raise hand button.
Okay.
Anyone?
If you If not, just use the chat button. So no worries, just use the chat button, inshallah.
Okay, Dr. Faisal, is it okay asking question with bahasa Indonesia?
Boleh, inshallah.
Oke, silakan Bapak Ibu. Jika ada pertanyaan bisa disampaikan secara langsung dengan bahasa Indonesia, tidak apa-apa. Silakan. Okay, there is a question in the chat box from Dian Perwitasari. Do you have any view or point about the connection between political connection improve or lower the quality of reported earnings? Because I think it will relate with earnings management.
Okay, sebentar. Do you have any view of point about the connection between political connections improve or lower the quality of reported earnings? Because I think it will relate. Yeah, well, in Dian, right? Dian, in general, if you read papers like Cheney et al. 2011, Chen et al. 2010. So in general, then the political connection will have lower quality of reported earnings. Okay, but if you read paper like Bata 2014, I'm gonna just write this one down. Okay. So if you read papers like this one, so this is for Dian. I hope Dian is here. If you read papers like this one, then it is actually saying it is a positive result because of less expropriation risk faced by the connected firms. But this is a different context. This is a context in Venezuela. So you need to understand that because the Bata's argument, they are trying to say that it is good being connected because they face less expropriation risk. But you need to understand the context of Venezuela first. Don't assume that it will happen to every country. So you need to understand the context of Venezuela first. So right. Same goes to this. I'm going still with Dian. Okay, like what we are doing right now, we find in Saudi it is actually less earnings management means better earnings quality. We're saying that because the general premise of our argument is saying that it's actually good being connected. They will share faster information because they are in the government. The ruling family is in the government. So they decide their own. They decide that will influence their own companies. So they will get probably faster information. I'm not saying that they did. This assumption, okay? It's positive accounting theory. You guys need to go back to that one. So we need to understand that they would be able to transfer information much faster. Okay? And there is also a perception that they want to look good. They want to look good. So there's also another assumption, another good theoretical argument. Okay, now, Cornelia, how the impact of the connection corporate governance on the message indicate that the president commission because indicating that if the president commissioner corporate president is likely the company has tendency to do earnings management. Not sure what the question is. How the impact of mention? Oh yeah, correct. Yes, if the president commissioner is politically connected, yes, of course, it's an indicator of tendency to do earnings management because it's politically connected. They might not be able to. I'm saying that he is or she is, but that will be the theory concern is. However, I think we find. We can develop a different argument regarding military connected directors who are actually the commissioner. So the generals might not want to be associated with the government. Let me rephrase that. They have different level of ethics. So military directors are trained like a military man, right? So they have different ethical value, higher ethical value, expected higher ethical values, and they might deter earnings management. So that if you want to ask in the context of Indonesia, you need to read, as I said, the background of that particular country. Now, Okay, now Mahisa asks, hello sir, I would like to ask about the method to measure particle connection itself. Yeah, you write, you find the paper by, you can read this paper by Pasio. I'm not sure whether I have it here. Sebentar ya. You can read this paper if you want to. This one. This one, that's me. That's probably the most reliable one. You can. This is a Malaysian-based paper. Okay, you can read my papers, but I use ethnicity. The only difference I use ethnicity as a measure. Okay. All right. Going back to Mahisa question. Now, I already found dummy. So, if you want to write a researcher, Mahisa, are you a PhD student or are you an undergraduate student? Mahisa.
Hello, Mahisa.
Mahisa. Is Mahisa here? Boleh jawab dalam chat, Mahisa. Kalau malu nak cakap. I know you are a student. Student undergraduate ke, PhD ke, masters ke?
Mahisa mahasiswa S1 atau undergraduate?
Okay. So, yeah, you, for undergraduate, you don't have to be honest, I'm not sure. You need to ask your supervisor. Okay, what will be a good measure? But for a start, yes, a dummy variable will probably be good. Yeah, just a dummy measure on political connection, that will be a good start. Then if you want to extend that particular project, right, to your master's or your PhD thesis, then you have to create a few other robustness measures that could actually, you can read Wong and Hui that create multiple measures as an example, but these are all dummy variables. It's probably a bit difficult to calculate. Oh, you can actually. You can use. Siapa nama ni? Mahisa. You can look at Herfindahl. Can use Herfindahl index. You can look at the literature. So, but Herfindahl index has to do with ownership concentration. So you can use that as a measure of a degree for particular connection based on ownership. You with me, Mahisa? Okay ke? Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Okay, any question? Silakan Bapak Ibu pakai bahasa Indonesia juga tidak apa-apa.
Ya, boleh. Jangan takut. Kalau saya tak faham, saya tanya lagi sekali. Kalau saya tak faham, I will ask again. No problem.
Okay, silakan Bapak Ibu.
Saya Pak Aditya.
Ya, silakan Ibu Caroline.
Ya, terima kasih. Bahasa Indonesia aja ya.
Ya, boleh.
Saya sedang melakukan penelitian di sektor publik di government yang juga pasti punya political connection yang kuat ya Pak.
Okay.
Saya studinya eksploratif, jadi wawancara dengan beberapa related parties.
Okay.
Yang saya ragukan itu bagaimana menampilkan hasil yang saya agak khawatir sebenarnya karena hasilnya menyinggung beberapa pihak yang politikalnya itu memang sangat kuat. Jadi sebenarnya
you are afraid of the contribution of your findings, bukan? Takut about findings. Okay. Alright. Now. Okay. And you doing interviews, bukan?
Yeah.
Okay. You interviews all of them. All of them are politically connected.
Not the political parties, but
no. Okay. Katakanlah you interview 10 orang. Okay. I just want to know your methodology. I'm not an expert in interview, okay? But I just want to understand your methodology. You interview 10 orang. daripada 10 orang ni, you kata tadi you mention ada yang politically connected, bukan?
Ya.
Okay, macam mana you identify? How you identify? Okay, katakanlah seorang ni, katakanlah Aditya is connected. How do you know that he's connected?
Not the respondent, not the participant that I interview, but the
Company.
result of the interview, so that this topik yang mau dibahas ini akan menyinggung, begitu ya. Saya menyimpulkan begitu, kesimpulannya bahwa ada pihak kuat nih di balik apa yang mau saya bahas gitu loh. Jadi saya agak takut mengungkapkan itu di finding gitu loh, Pak. So bertanya itu how far I can explore the result of the interview gitu. Karena itu sebenarnya the main reason or the main answer of the problems.
Okay, for instance, I'm not going to ask you what you ask.
Yeah.
So contohnya, okay, macam mana ya? You found that one of the recipient, or you found in general that the recipient supports. I think your concern is like this. You found in general, don't quote me on this one, you found in general that the recipient do not like the government, correct? Something like that. Lebih kurang lah. Contoh, bukan? Contoh, bukan?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you are afraid of telling that, bukan?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, I'm not in the privilege of telling you what to write. I think that's not my role. But academically, there are many ways for you to filter what you're going to inform. Okay, you have to understand that academically, you can consult with your supervisor on how we can disseminate this particular information.
Yeah.
Tidak semestinya you can be very negative. Dia tidak ni. Okay, I give you an example lah. Siapa ni? Caroline,
Yeah.
Caroline. Okay, Caroline. In Malaysia, kita tahu kan perkataan crony and nepotism, bukan?
Yeah.
Cronism and nepotism. But in Malaysia, we use this word. We use that word. Okay. Positive cronism. So it's not negative cronism. Mesti cronism yang memberi faedah. Faedah, is it the Indonesian word?
Yeah.
Okay, memberi faedah. Okay. So yeah. And then okay. So that's the you can filter what you want to say.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you have to be very blunt of what they say. You have to understand that kita faham. I mean, we have issues too. There's not. I mean, as an academic, kita ada masalah macam tu.
Yeah.
But there are many ways for you to filter what you want to say. So you can. Saya tak tahu your research macam mana. You can talk to your thesis. You can talk to your thesis supervisor how to filter this particular piece of information.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, at the same time, you have to be very careful. Yeah, that's totally understandable. Sama juga. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. There are ways for you to do
thank
it.
you, sir.
There are ways for you to do it. That's not, no worries.
Thank you very much.
So, no problem. So, Sepetrian, hello, sir. Earlier, you said that most of the research in accounting research focus on medical theory. There is a recent trend of applying this as a theory. So, how did this trend emerge and influence the previous theories? Does that also change parts of it? No, I think that's a competing theory, Sepetrian. I think it's a competing theory. So, okay, now. Okay, nanti saya sekejap ya, cari kecil. Sebentar.
Aditya. No.
Sebentar, mana paper tu?
Yeah, page 90.
Okay. Yeah. Sir, Cuman mau meyakinkan sir, apa Herfindahl-Hirschman Index itu sir?
Yes, saya.
Di sini ada saya browsing Herfindahl-Hirschman Index dari market kapitalisasi itu untuk mengukur. Thank you sir, thank you very much sir.
Itu
very helpful.
Yeah, but you can use that to measure the level of ownership or something like that. You can use that. You can use that. It's not uncommon though, but it's not a measure though.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. It's not. Sebentar saya nak jawab soalan Septrian ni. Sebentar.
Sorry sir, thank you sir.
It's okay. Sebentar. Sampai nama Septrian. Septrian ni dari mana ni? USU ni?
Universitas Sumatera Utara, right, Septrian? Hello,
Septrian?
Right.
Yeah, Universitas Sumatera Utara.
Oh, how far is that from University 11 Maret? Is it far?
Yeah, it's very far. It's in Sumatra, not in Java.
Oh, yeah, not very familiar. Okay. Okay, apa dia? Septrian?
Near Malaysia.
Near Malaysia. Okay, you can read this paper, Septrian. That one. Okay. Septrian? Hello. Okay, you can use that paper and convergence, and there's another paper here. That one. But it's not political connection, okay? No, the first paper tu yang zona media and witness ni, it's very similar. You can use the similar arguments. They try to converge the convergence, right? Yeah. So you can read these two papers. You can a bit more on understanding. But these are management papers, so you have to be if you're not familiar with management papers, you kena sabar sikit lah. So because it's quite a read. So yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Anyone?
Sir, yang menggunakan Hirschman Index itu sir, paper apa yang digunakan sir? Herfindahl and Hirschman Index itu menggunakan paper apa?
Oh, saya tak pastilah. Because usually it's an ownership paper.
Ownership, okay sir.
Yeah, it's an ownership paper. Not sure. But go ahead. Yes, continue. Junaidi, ya? So ini bukan? Okay, any other questions?
Okay, anyone?
Any other questions? Bismillah.
Marcus, I think. Do you have any question?
Ya, ada angkat tangan.
Pakai bahasa Indonesia tidak apa-apa.
Ya, jangan malu-malu. Tanya je, ask away. We are all learning here. Saya pun masih belajar. We are all students here. Don't worry.
Oke. Bapak Ibu silakan jika masih ada pertanyaan. Oke.
Siapa tu?
Markus Muda. Do you have any question? Okay, in the chat box.
Okay.
Dr.
Is there any difference in advantages of companies that have political connection or don't access because of that? Of course they do. Well, in general, I'm not talking about cause of that. I'm talking about that in general. Okay. Yes, there are papers that actually investigate that. I think. Let me just look at. Sebentar. Refin, ya. Refin sekejap ya, Refin. Ada kat sini sekejap. I thought I have it here. Ada dekat sini tapi sekejap. Banyak sangat dah pula paper dia ni. Paper mana? Ni. Sebentar. Allah. Sekejap. Tak ada, I cannot find the paper, but okay, that's okay. Just. Okay, now. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Rifin, this is the paper. If you want to look at paper regarding cost of debt, okay, because it's higher cost of debt. And that's another paper also by Prof. Gould and Mark Bliss. I think Mark is already retired, but that one. Okay, so in general is saying that it has, well, you would expect that politically connected firms would have higher level of cost of debt, right? Because the lenders would perceive them as risky, so they just increase the interest. So yeah, all right. Yeah, Bapak Iman banyak paper, so you can look at Bapak Iman's punya. I'm going to show you Bapak Iman punya paper punya ni. You can just go here. This is Bapak Iman punya Google Scholar. So Dr. Iman Hari Mawan from UNAR. So he has done a lot of papers on political connection in Indonesia. A very simple paper, easy to read for everyone, inshallah. Okay, now.
Sir, is it okay if I have another question?
Sure, go for it. If you have time. Somebody?
Rifin, sir.
Rifin, okay, sorry, Rifin.
Okay, I want to ask about how to measure political connection in the qualitative way. Maybe they say you can use MP4 or something to analyze the text. I'm not familiar with qualitative papers in terms of political connection. I have to really say that I'm not very familiar. However, as I think in the chat box, I have provided the paper by Efri and Hopper. So the paper of Erin Hopper will be a good start on how you would like to classify something as politically connected or not. It's not a political connection paper, it's a culture paper, but it's probably a good example. I'm not very good at this. I'm not the best person for you to ask a question. I might be the wrong person for you to ask this question. So I'm not very good in answering that question. I'm very, very sorry, Rifin. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. Just read the paper by Efri and Hopper.
Yeah.
Nanti inshallah you can get a bit of a background. In fact, Efri and Hopper too actually is a better paper, people say, qualitatively than Hofstede paper. So I'm sure you guys have heard about Hofstede, right?
Yes.
Ramai orang buat pasal Hofstede, but there's some issues in it. But let's talk about that later. But Efri and Hopper basically tackle the problem by Hofstede. What have Hofstede done? So Efri and Hopper very good indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any questions? Ya, jangan malu-malu, insyaAllah. Kalau saya boleh jawab, saya jawab. Kalau saya tak boleh jawab, saya cakap saya tak boleh jawab. So, I can only do as much and I'll try my level best to address your concerns and yeah.
Okay, in chat box from Junaidi, it's interesting to make a research to compare systematically in Malaysia, Indonesia, and I think Arab, Saudi, and Korea.
You can just do a literature review on that one. Just write a paper on that one. It'll be good. But I'm not sure whether you're going to hit high, but that's a different context. Even you don't have to go big. Even you have to write Malay, Indonesia, Singapore political connected firm. It's probably has to do with the government temasek. I think that has to do with that. So different context. Brunei is very similar to Saudi, right? It has royal, but it doesn't have a capital market. So we won't be able to investigate political connections in Brunei. So yeah, but other than that, you will see countries like East Timor. I'm not sure whether they have a capital market there. But other countries you can. Thailand is very prevalent as well in terms of connection firms. Yeah. I forgot to say one thing. Can I just go back to my ni sebentar ya? I forgot to say this. This one. Okay, now saya terlupa cakap tadi. If you look at the papers regarding political connection, if you look at the papers, mostly has to do with company that have a political regime, a democratic country, to put it that way. But you can also investigate political connections for China. China only has one party. And they also have political connections too. So the reason I'm trying to say here is that don't restrict yourself by understanding that you need to have a binary connection with politically connected firms, because how are you supposed to do that for China? Oh, you can actually, but China only one company means that one political party. But in such a way that there's a lot of papers out there that has to do with political connected firms in India and China. Many, oh man, hundreds of them. So, but what I'm trying to say is that they have a very different background, but they can still develop that political connection based on state SOEs and state-owned enterprises and stuff. So, okay, right. Sorry. Any questions? Any other questions now?
Okay, I think I have a question from you, for you, Dr. Efizal.
Yeah.
Is there any relationship between political connection and CSR practices, Dr. Efizal?
Okay, so again, it goes. You would expect that. I would say that on top of my head, you would have a ambiguous relationship. According to I'm not very familiar with CSR, but you would expect that politically connected firms would try to involve in more CSR activities in certain countries because of the nature of social obligation, right?
Yeah.
So you would expect that big companies, for example, I don't know, Proton or something like that, they are connected. They would need to play a bigger role in terms of CSR activities. Okay, that's probably my main argument. The other argument is, we just don't care. So we just don't care. But I'm not leaning towards that argument. If you look at countries, if you look at countries, they have companies that are heavily dominated by political connection and they get funding from government. I would say that their CSR is probably at a higher level, or at least at the same level with the non-connected firms. Yeah. Okay, I hope I answered that question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Efizal. Okay, any question? Bapak Ibu silakan jika ada pertanyaan.
Yep.
Okay.
Jangan takut, jangan ni.
Okay, tidak ada pertanyaan lagi. Okay, I think it's the end, Dr. Efizal.
Okay, can I just hold on?
Yeah.
Sebentar. Kejap ya.
Enggak.
Okay.
Sebentar. Sekejap.
Ini pas
Ada chat ni lagi ni. Oh, ada.
Yeah, from Junaidi.
Kemungkinan. Oh, sorry newbie. Send me an email, insyaAllah. If I can help, I'll help. If I can't, then I'll say no. Is that okay, Junaidi? Hello, Junaidi.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. I am happy. Thank you
No
very
problem,
much, sir.
insyaAllah. Kalau saya boleh tolong, saya tolong. Okay, is it okay for Aditya? Can I do a short presentation on my university? Is that okay?
Okay, it's okay.
Am I sharing this one already? No, right?
No.
No, okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, okay, siapa nama ni? Okay, hold on. Apa nama ni? Where's my chat button? Oh, sorry. Sekejap. Oh, yeah, here's the chat. So, okay, this is my email. Okay, I'm going to give you my WhatsApp number. Okay. 614. Oops, sorry. 61406. Okay, that's my number. Okay. I would prefer, if you have any questions, if the members, if the participants today have a question, I would prefer it to be in a group. Maksudnya you, if you already have a group, a WhatsApp group, then just invite me in so that I can ask a question. So I'm already in groups I'm in a WhatsApp group in University Technology Brunei. They included me in the group. So if you have any questions, you're going to ask me questions. We have our own research group chat that involves mostly PhD students and PhD holders like me. If you want to be part of that particular group, just inform me and introduce yourself. Be more than happy to include everyone in the group. Okay, so have that in mind. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to try to just talk a little bit on Curtin University's 2-3 minutes at most, okay? Oh, ya, semua happy. Sorry. Semalam saya makan nasi padang sedap, rendang, singkong dengan telur. Oh, best.
Oh, sedap sangat tuh.
Ya, sini there's a lot of good Indonesian food here. Nanti tak apalah, nanti Bapak Agong, siapa ni? Dodi is not here. Dodi, nanti datang sini, kita makan dekat tu, Dodi. Anyway. Share. Am I sharing the slides?
Yeah. I can see your slide.
Okay. In the earlier slides, you have mentioned about our twinning program. So I just want to talk about. I'm not going to talk much because I'm not in the marketing program. Oops, sorry. So there we are. We are at the Bentley campus. I think to Jakarta is probably about 4 hours flight. Oh, sorry, no. Yeah, probably about 4 hours flight to Jakarta. I usually travel to Surabaya. I've never been to Jakarta. So I usually travel to Surabaya via Robbie. I can't remember now. Sorry. Usually I think via Singapore. All right. Then I go straight to Surabaya. I'm not sure there's a direct flight to Surabaya. I can't remember now. Okay, that's us. So we have 1 hour difference. So that might be very appealing to us. We at the moment we are basically. Some people say we are the safest places on earth because the borders remain closed. Inshallah, by January we're going to open the borders. Inshallah. Okay. Now, we are ranked in the top 1% universities worldwide, academic world ranking, and the top 10 actually in Australia academic ranking on world's university. We are easily the biggest university in Western Australia. Easily. Memang besar. So if you have been here, I think your dean, Prof. Joko, graduated from here. Prof. Agong, Probowo, graduated from here. Those are two of my PhD group back in 2003, 2004 because we were supervised by the same supervisor. Okay, so that's how close we are. And I think you know that Prof. Dodi, he was at University of Science Malaysia. Probably we used to play badminton together with Prof. Dodi. Okay, we used to have breakfast together and stuff. So okay, all right. The 10 most livable city in the world. Okay, it's very beautiful. It's quite quiet. If you talk about Indonesian food, there's so many Indonesian food. InsyaAllah kalau saya ni ada kelapangan, saya tak gambar sikit lagi kalau saya lapar. Saya suka makan mi ayam komplit, the nasi padang, very good food. But the satay, I think the Malaysian satay is better. I don't know. Wallahu alam. But that's my take. Anyway. This is the Kerteng University. You see that? There's a Kerteng University there. It's quite huge. This is not only campus that we have multiple campus, yeah. So we even have campus in Kalgoorlie, if I can recall correctly. So we have we have campuses in Dubai. We have campus in Mauritius as well. Okay. Okay, this is a Faculty of Business and Law. Top 1 business schools worldwide. We are accredited by WCSB, which is quite good. If you're looking for a job, some companies might request you that. Even that, if you want to apply for a PhD program, then some PhD programs will actually request that you graduated from WCSB. Okay, I'm not sure whether that rule applicable in Indonesia. That's a different context, but usually applicable here in Australia and New Zealand. Okay, now, sorry about that one. We have 14,000 students. Yes, there's a lot. Of course, there's a lot. There's a bit of a dip, but we have a lot of international students. Most of my international students are from China. I have students from Nepal, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, of course. New Zealand is not considered as an international student, so most students are from there. We have had, I'm not sure whether I have experienced any exchange program, but yeah, we have that programs as well. Oh, sorry. It's not. Okay. All right. This is our trading room. Sorry. We have changed the setting of the trading room. The trading room does not look like that anymore. It's slightly changed. Okay. This is the only trading room in Western Australia. Just bear in mind that no other universities have this trading room. Okay, we are the only one. Okay, Kerteng has the only one. So this is finance stuff. It's not accounting. So you will familiarize yourself with how to trade by the accounting lecturers, by the finance lecturers. Sorry. Okay, now, so this is the agency. Whereby the multimedia, in terms of multimedia and how, so that you see those graphs here, so you can see that those are basically information regarding multimedia activities. So regarding Kerteng universities and all, so that's very, very, for me, it's very, very super stuff, but but it's quite good. It's a very, it's basically an open space, because you can see people doing work from outside. So it's a very, very nice place. It's not open 24 hours though. It's open only for teaching. But next to it, there's an abacus lab which is open 24 hours. Okay. Now, this is a management HQ, Kerteng Business School. Okay. And okay, this is a UNS Kerteng partnership. We've talked about this earlier before we begin the lecture. So we have UNS Kerteng double degree, 4 years, 2 degrees, 2 UNS 1.5 and plus 1.5, and you go back, I think, to UNS for 0.5. Okay, so at the Kerteng University, you study year 3 and 4, semester 1. Okay, what's that sound? Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. All right, it's 4 years. It's quite good though. You have 4 years and 2 degrees. Which is quite good. So I think you're going to get a degree from Kerteng and also a degree from UNS. It's quite good. Okay, right now. study up to semesters 13 and get credits which is available for all students at Universitas 11 Maret. And you also have UNS Ketin Masters, Bachelor and Ketin Masters degree. Okay. So what I think the things that I can say about Perth is a cordial place. It's not that really expensive for everyone. There's a good Indonesian community here, very healthy Indonesian community here. A lot of, you won't be able to, there's no difficulty in finding halal food. Those days when I was a student, 94, 98, it's quite difficult to find halal food, but not anymore. So it's a lot of good Indonesian food, halal food, Indonesian stores, easy. We even, if you cannot go back for Eid, they also have open day for Ramadan. So Indonesians gather together. They have 1 day or 1 or 2 days open day. So they just go there. They sell jubah. They sell all those clothes for Ramadan. Okay. Now. Okay, so that's about, so we welcome you guys here if you want to come, and feel free to contact me if you want to come. I'll try my level best to be a good host to everyone. Okay, now I have few chat buttons here. Not sure what's the sate di Universitas Anjana gratis atau kapan mau sharing? Okay, alright. Okay, anyway, everyone. I'm not sure whether you want to. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they want to have a list of attendance here, but that's okay. Anyway, as I said earlier, apa nama ni? If you want to be in touch with me, I would prefer to be in a group. So you can start maybe 5 or 6 of you, maybe form a group, maybe everyone. I do not know, and send me a message so that. The reason why, because your question might be beneficial for everyone. I don't like keeping, I like to share information. I don't like to keep the information for myself or for everyone's to do. So one question here, for example, right? Then I would share the answers to everyone. If I'm wrong, then I will rectify it. Or if I need time, then I will need more time. But I would prefer that. So if, I do not know, maybe Aditya can organize, or anybody here willing to organize a WhatsApp group, I'll be more than happy to be part of that particular group. And you have question, inshallah, if I can answer, saya jawab. Kalau saya tak, if I can't do it, I say no, or I can delegate to friends that are expert in this area. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether you have any other questions. Don't forget to here is the link to your presence. Don't forget to submit your attendance. Okay. Yeah, it's a good idea to have for having WhatsApp group. Yes, okay, yeah. So if you have, don't. I think. Yeah. So yeah, feel free. I have just one request. If this group is only for undergraduate, sekiranya only for undergraduate, I need a lecturer to be in that group for monitoring purposes. Is that okay? I think it's a fair request. Sebab I don't want to be telling you guys without monitoring. It's not good lah. It's not good. So, but if we have a PhD students and all, then I think it should be okay, inshallah. So, but if it's only for undergraduate, you have to bring one lecturer in that particular group for monitoring purposes. All right. If you have my number, if you want to start creating the group, feel free to do so. 614-062956. Inshallah, all be good. Okay, Aditya. I think I leave that to you. I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rizal. I think after this meeting, we will create a WhatsApp group for the student. I think I will invite you to join the group.
Inshallah.
Dr. Rizal.
Okay, no problem.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Efizal.
Oh, thank you very much. Lama kita saya bercakap ni dekat 2 jam. I wasn't expecting this. I told Prof. Dodi this is far too formal. Saya dah menggeletar tangan tadi. So I thought it's going to be, but Alhamdulillah, I hope everyone benefits something because I learned from something. Something. I learned a lot, not something. I learned a lot from everyone. Your questions are very, very good, Alhamdulillah, and I learned from something. So, insyaAllah bila kita ada niat untuk belajar, insyaAllah Allah SWT akan tambah, insyaAllah. So, just bear that in mind. Don't think that you are good in everything. So, I said to myself, if I don't know, I always say no. So, but you will eventually learn from every single step that you take. So, insyaAllah, so if you can be positive for everything we do, saya juga, I'm telling myself, I'm not telling you, I'm telling myself, you will remain positive and niat untuk belajar lagi dan lagi, insyaAllah Allah Ta'ala akan tambah, insyaAllah. So, okay. Alright, other than that, I think I'm good. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think your lecture has enhanced our knowledge and give the idea, I think, for conducting research in the future. Dr. Efizal, once again, thank you. I send back the Zoom meeting to the host. Thank you. Santi, silakan.
Thank you. What an interesting discussion we got about political connection and accounting research. Thank you to Dr. Efizal Aswadi Abdul Wahab for the information and knowledge which have been given to us. May it be useful for us. And thank you to Mr. Aditya Pandu Wicaksono STMK for his lead the discussion. Okay, to all participants, don't forget to fill the link attendance. Okay, the next agenda is the distribution of your prize. Please to all participants station on your screen device. The winner of the prize will be determined using wheel spin. And the name contained in wheel spin are those who are active during the discussion session. So, get ready everyone. Okay, the first winning
I should do this in my class.
It's very interesting, Doctor.
Wow, congratulations to Mrs. Bian. Sorry for Mrs. Bian, are you here? Please turn on your microphone or using featurized hands to confirm your attendance in 5 seconds.
Miss Santi, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bian. Congratulations. Okay, the next winner is okay, the second winner is Mr. Arif Widyatama. Sorry, Mr. Arif Widyatama, are you here? Please turn on your microphone or using featurized hands to confirm your attendance in 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, the next is the last winner, and the last winner is okay, and the winner is Mahesa. Sorry to Mr. Mahesa, are you here? Please turn on your microphone or using featurized hands to confirm your attendance in 5 seconds. I will count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, doesn't seems to be in the room Zoom. We will spin back to find a replacement winner of this door prize. Okay, the winner is Okay, congratulations to Mr. Junaidi. Sorry, to Mr. Junaidi, are you here? Please turn on your microphone or using feature license to confirm your attendance. Okay, I will count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, doesn't seem to be in room 0. We will spin back to find a replacement winner of this prize. Okay, and the winner is okay, congratulations to Mr. Evin. Sorry, Mr. Are you here? Mr. Are you
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, congratulations to all winners. Please to contact to Maulida and the number is in the chat column. Okay, the next session is the documentation session. To all participants, please turn on your camera. We will take a screen capture together. Okay, for the first slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, the second slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the last slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you to all participants. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. Thank you and apologies profusely if any words that were displeasing to the audience here. Don't forget to fill the attendance link below and don't forget to join tomorrow webinar series Role of Higher Education in Green Economy through SDGs initiatives. Save the dates. Thank you and see you next time.
Aditya, nanti saya hantar the annotated PDF, okay?
Okay.
To just message me then saya hantar to your WhatsApp insyaAllah.
Okay, I will message you after this meeting.
Okay, Assalamualaikum to everyone. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam. Izin pamit semuanya. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.